I'm Joel Aguilera, Artistic Director of Mezclada, and the piece we premiered today was called De Aquí, which means from here.
Hi, my name is Jaylin Vinson. I am a composer, and I wrote Dark Matter.
My name is Tyler Martin. I'm a flutist, and I was the soloist in Dark Matter.
My name is Austin Llewellyn. I'm a double bassist and the managing director of Kinetic Ensemble, who backed up this wonderful duo here tonight.
Is my mic on? Oh, it is on. Hi. My name is Kay Prince, and I'm the composer of The City Sings.
And so my first question for you all is, what was the original spark for the piece that you created that we saw tonight? And what do you hope that people take away after having been in the audience tonight?
I guess I'll go first. So De Aquí, when I first wrote the grant for it and the vision for it, a lot of it, there was two main parts. One is celebrating Houston and just how diverse we are. And I know at Mezclada, we mix a lot of styles and cultures together. So we're constantly trying to celebrate diversity in different ways. But also, I was really inspired last year when I applied. Just politically at the moment, I feel like there are a lot of barriers for Latino people. And this is my way of fighting back, but in a positive way, of just celebrating Latin people and the culture that we come from, and honestly, just the optimism that we bring to every community we're in. So this is my way of showcasing that.
Dark Matter came about, and it's probably, 4 years old in its inception. It became an idea from 4 years ago. Tyler so graciously asked me to write a piece for him. He realized that was his first mistake. And I wrote a piece for him, and I told him at the end of that collaboration, the piece was a smaller piece for flute and percussion. Actually, a little bit of that piece, of the first piece I wrote, you heard in the third movement of Dark Matter, just as a callback to that. But I told him at the end of that collaboration, almost verbatim, I don't know how or when or where it's going to happen, but I will write a flute concerto for you. And we sat there, we took long walks in Herman Park, we sent text messages. Literally, I was looking back at our text messages, actually, there was random days where I'd remind him, be like, don't forget, I will be writing a flute concerto for you. Where I was essentially just kind of manifesting this thing that I had no real way of knowing how it would happen, but I knew and believed that it would. And so I guess if there is a thing to take away from Dark Matter outside of the extra musical things and its inspiration from Octavia Butler, is that don't let your dreams just be dreams. Is that the fact that you can envision it and the fact that you can imagine it, that's literally enough for it to materialize. And I think this piece was a great example of that. And I'll tag team it to Tyler.
Yeah, and I also think, the spark for this piece sort of bloomed out of our friendship, And it's interesting to me how it's morphed and really taken on many different characters actually from its inception. I remember one of the initial ideas we were thinking about was it being about mythology, and over the years, like Jaylin said, through these text messages and lunches and brief exchanges, it developed into this beautiful piece that it is today. So.
Okay. The City Sings is about the history of Houston and how I experienced Houston as a child. And I kind of moved a lot as a child, and so it also is how I experienced it when I came back as an adult. You grow up, you learn about Juneteenth, and you learn about where things are starting to be gentrified and stuff. And so I kind of wrote my second movement and my third movement kind of looking into that, and I kind of just hope that my listeners are able to have a bit of self-reflection while they're listening to my work.
I've talked to all of you a little bit about your process, and each of you have a very different creative process. Some requires collaboration, some is fueled by collaboration, and some can be done quietly by yourself. I'm curious to hear a little bit about the process of creating this work and if any of you had a moment within the creation process of this work where the direction of the piece may have surprised you, what was being created maybe evolved in a way that you didn't anticipate, or became, a fun pivot within the creation of the work.
I know my personal process, I do listen to a lot of music, just driving throughout the city, whatever it may be, it's just always constantly listening. So it definitely starts with the music, which I would love to hear y'all's point of view. You are making the music, so that's always an interesting thought for myself. But for me, it's like finding the songs that I feel inspired by and that I fuel a lot of creativity in daydreaming for me. And once I feel like I can daydream a lot to a song, I feel like I can choreograph to it. A moment where I feel like a pivot was, I know when I was first writing it, I think, like I mentioned, like politically, there's a lot of things that I'm seeing online that I feel like fueled me, but almost like in an angry way, that like inspired me to do the writing. But I think creating the work, I felt that pivot of like, I feel like a lot of Latino people, we don't hold grudges, like we're ready to move on happily and like be joyful in our lives. And I feel like that's the pivot I took choreographically, where I wanted to just make it more fun, as opposed to like sending a message like with intention of like aggression, and more of like sending a message through optimism. And that was like a moment where I feel like things started falling into place for me, that it just made more sense choreographically speaking from beginning to end.
There's a story that goes along with how I'm actually writing the notes of Dark Matter, but I think the story that's actually way more interesting is everything that happened before I started writing any music. And I was reading a ton of Octavia Butler, and I spent the most time in her biography that was released last year. And so much in her biography, they talked about Octavia Butler's writing process and how she would have this little typewriter. And for most of her life, she was extremely poor. Even when she was, having extreme success, she had lots of money issues. But every single day, even she was coming from her day job, whether it was cleaning, like people's residences or whatever, she would come back to her home and write. Even though she was extremely tired, sometimes she worked 12, 14, 16-hour days, but she would always make time to write. And sometimes she would hate the things that she wrote, and she wanted to burn it and throw it away, which I feel like that sometimes too. But she's described that process as it being a positive obsession. It's like something that she did not because she wanted to, but because it was like an inherent part of her condition, an inherent part of her existence as a human. And I think that there's so much of that I resonated with, and it kind of maybe didn't have a pivot in the piece, but it was a pivot in how I think of myself as an artist. There's so much of thinking about like, why is it that we do art, especially in the chaos of the world? Like why is art important? Where is its impact? And I think art does have a real impact, but more internally is that I couldn't do anything else. Not that I don't have the capacity to do anything else, because I know that I can do this, and it's such an inherent part of my ability to create and share that into the world, that is my own positive obsession.
Yeah, my creative process is a bit different. Usually when I write, I have a film or something in front of me. So this was a bit different. Doing the City Sings, I did a lot of journaling. A lot of my music is based off how I feel and my emotions. I don't listen to any music at all when I'm writing, because I feel like I might, take somebody else's, But for this, I don't know, it was a bit different. Some of the work, like my second movement, took 3 hours to finish. And some of them, like my first movement, took 6 months to finish. So I don't know, it's just different depending on what I do.
I can chat a little bit from the performer perspective. But for me, my process is a little bit different. I'm not actually creating anything. I'm interpreting what is being created. And it's interesting because, I really appreciate Jaylin as a composer, because he's a true collaborator. A lot of my process was having conversations with Jaylin about how he would like the piece to be played, what he envisioned, what he heard, while also incorporating some of the things that we have in common. We have a shared love of gospel music that was infused into the piece. and of R&B and so many other things. But it's also really cool because he challenges me and pushes me as a performer to be able to do things that are outside of my comfort zone or things that I would not have ventured doing without, him. So my collaborative process or my creative process is really a collaborative one. So.
Each of you is very accomplished already in your youth. I mean, you're all relatively young with large careers still ahead of you. Joel, you are on the Texas touring roster already. You've been up at APAP. Jaylin, your music has been at Carnegie Hall. Kay, you've already scored an entire film. I am curious, though, as artists, you must have dreams of what the pinnacle of your career might be or what you'd hope to achieve. Kinetic is a wildly successful chamber ensemble already. I'm curious to hear from every single one of you. What is the pinnacle dream of your career? What is that, that achievement that you hope to see yourself doing at some point?
This is part of it. We're here at the Wortham. Let's get a round of applause for that, I mean, honestly, 10 minutes ago, with just watching my dancers, when I had a second to go on the wings, I had a moment where I'm like, this is my dream right now. I'm here right now, I'm living it. And I told my dancers right before I came out, I'm like, thank you guys. Y'all are helping me do what I'm aspiring to do. And I mean, just what a wonderful opportunity. I feel blessed to be here. And I think my dream is just to keep doing this right here, keep going to theaters like the Rhythm, working with organizations like Performing Arts Houston, and then hopefully Performing Arts New York, Performing Arts Cincinnati, Performing Arts Chicago, whatever it may be. We just keep this going right now. And I think it sounds like all of us, have intention to showcase our art. We're always it sounds like all of us are inspired by art, if in different mediums, and using it as a positive outlet. And that's just what I just aspire to do. I know Mezclada personally, we're gonna evolve this work into evening length work this year. Hopefully October, we're gonna change the title to Presente, a Spanglish story of just celebrating Latin in America coming together. So that's where we're going. We're just gonna keep moving on and just keep expanding.
Yeah, I go. I would love to keep scoring for film, and I would love to start scoring for video games. Film and games are part of your childhood. People get tattoos, it's with you forever. So I want to be able to write and help people fulfill their dream. People are always, looking for something when they're writing for a film, and I just love being able to complete their dream. So yeah.
Speaking for Kinetic, our vision has always been one of an artist-focused and Houston-centered ensemble. Our mission is to amplify diverse, underperformed, and newly composed classical music right here in Houston through performing and recording. And this collaboration is the dead center of exactly what we're trying to do. So we're so happy to be part of this. We're so privileged to be part of this. And we seek to just do even more and help bring more new works to life and help those works have more of a life.
For me, I'm primarily an orchestral musician, and part of what got me into classical music was I'm from Chicago, going to see the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and I noticed a lack of people that look like me on the stage in the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. So for me, I don't really have something that I'm trying to achieve or milestone that I'm trying to reach, but I want to continue to be visible so that other young people like me that are interested in classical music have positive representation on stage.
Let's open it up and see if anyone out in the audience would like to ask a question.
Well, can I also?
Sorry.
Oh, you're all good.
Thank
You're
you.
all good.
Thank
You're
you,
all good. You're all
audience.
good.
Sorry,
Wait,
Jaylin.
hold on.
I come from a musical tradition where music is used as a way to connect to something that's beyond yourself. And as Tyler mentioned, that's gospel music. And so what I love so much about gospel music is that it makes space for both an individual virtuosity while also embracing a collective participation that allows everybody that is experiencing that music to connect to something that's much bigger than themselves. And so in some way, if I think about like the pinnacle of my career, of course I'd like a Grammy, a Pulitzer Prize would be nice. But if I'm thinking of like, the actual like impact of, what is it that I want my music to do? I want my music to extend beyond me, for people to call or to listen for my music in a way that they're in need for something that's bigger than me, that's bigger than the individual musicians, that it is there to provide them even like one degree of, I don't know, of feeling something, whether it's happiness or joy or, whatever it is. If I can change someone's life by one degree, I think that's enough for me. And I would love to think that like my music extends beyond just my physical person, and that it exists in the world for people to latch on to, and that it means something for them.
That was worth waiting for. That was good.
Art has the power to change the world, and thank you. Any questions?
Not all at once.
Great.
I understand dance, okay? But music, I'm just writing a musical score. That is so far beyond what I can imagine being able to do. I was going to ask how long it takes you to do that, but you said it took 3 hours for one movement and 6 months for another.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't know how. I don't know. I can't explain.
Why? Yeah,
It just maybe I connected to one more. Maybe my I don't know.
but 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours nonstop. I was just doing it.
You must have just been on fire.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine, being able to create something, any sort of piece at any length, in 3 hours. So, bravo.
Oh, thank you so much.
That was my question.
Yeah, and if I can add something, I think every composer agrees that composing is a very grueling process. I don't think anyone enjoys it 100% of the time, including myself. I think I hate it 100% of the time, but it's I still like it has a good product in the end. But I think what makes the process more fun and what has made this project so fun is that I have collaborators built into the process, so that piece-wise, I'm able to like send things to Tyler, and for me to hear it back and be like, oh yeah, that doesn't work, and then we try something else, But I think I try to incorporate in my process as many ways as I'm able to bring other people into the room, because if I'm up by myself in my thoughts for too long, it gets a little scary. But as daunting as it seems to you, it's as equally as daunting and scary to me. So.
Damari McGill. He is the principal flute of the Seattle Symphony Orchestra. And actually, 2 years ago, I got to do one of my biggest dreams, which was to play next to him in the Seattle Symphony for a concert. So yeah, seeing him, and he's still, to this day, is fantastic. He's premiering flute concertos all over the place. He's touring and doing chamber music. But yeah, he just inspires me in every single way. And it's even more inspiring knowing that he also is Black.
For me, I think it's just like people who are in my life. Like, I've got a few already. Like, we got Jeff wrote here, Olympian and breaker in America, and him and we've been dancing together for 15 years. So, just practicing dancing and helping find my style through practicing with friends, watching other creators like Young Chris, last year's new now artist, watching his company move around, my mother-in-law here, who honestly I think I probably talk the most politics with anyone else in my life is with my mother-in-law, and just like encouraging conversation. So really just like people around me, not so much like me looking for artists online or anything. It's just like who's around, who do I get to watch in my city, and I think that's the most inspiring people for me.
I'll answer this. I'm not just saying this because they're here, but it really is my parents. Right here in the front. Sorry. What I love so much about my parents is that they do whatever they want, and it's that if they see if they want something to happen, they make it happen. I feel like I get so much of that of that part of my personality from them. I'll share an anecdote from each of them. My mom really wanted a deck outside, and so outside of our patio. And I think my dad got the quote for how much it would be, and he said, "No, I'll do it myself," and he did. It took him a long time. I think there's one pillar that's maybe a little crooked than the others, but he got it done. He got it done. My mom, same thing. I think she loves to travel and she loves to organize, other people's travels. And so I think she asked herself, was like, wait, I enjoyed this so much. Why don't I just this be the thing that I do? She started her own travel business agency. And it's like she's never known anyone that, personally that does those things. But I think they saw something that they haven't necessarily seen someone else do, and they said, well, I can do that anyway. And I think that is just such an inspirational spirit to have, especially as me as an artist, to see things like, maybe I haven't seen this before, but because I can imagine it, I think I can do it. So, thanks, parents. Yeah, good job.
For me, it was my high school classical piano teacher, Eva Flowers. She was the first person that looked like me doing the thing that I wanted to do. And she made sure I knew that other little girls and little boys who looked like me were going to look up to me, and I had to make sure that I was practicing. I made sure that when I got on stage, I knew my music. And she let me know that whatever I wanted to do, I could do it. It didn't matter what I looked like, but I probably had to work a little bit harder for people to hear my music. But yeah, I just kind of keep that with me all the time.
So, while creating for You Now, were you thinking about this stage, or were you thinking this stage and broader than the stage? And after producing the work, do you see this work being something bigger than this stage?
Yeah, so me and Tyler are already in conversations on the second lifespan of this piece. We're already scheming, have emails sent, have emails drafted, because I think this is an important work, and I think we're very appreciative for the legs that Performing Arts Houston has given this. And so now we're trying to run as far as possible with those legs that they've given us. And so big things will be coming. So you'll hear Dark Matter again somewhere.
Is it scored for a full orchestra?
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I did mention before, like we do plan on extending this to a full evening length work. So this is 30 minutes. We're gonna go for an hour and a half, and just keep on adding on, and hopefully we get that done by October. So yeah, we be moving. Even this work, I feel like we've had a lot of time, but I'm sure like as an artist, like it's not until like that week of you really get to see what that looks like. So watching it now, I'm like, definitely want to continue to move this on to stages just as big, smaller, bigger, whatever it may be, but just keep it going. And I think that was all of it.
I think I would like my piece to stay here. I really would. I think that this piece was for 21, and then it was cut down to 11, and then it was cut down to 5. And I think that it sounded very great in this space, but I don't know, I think this piece was just for this, and I kind of want to hold on to that memory of that. So, especially, like, just specifically for this, yeah. Are you talking?
So for a little bit of context, with a flute concerto like this or any other concerto, after the premiere, it's typical for the soloist and the composer to tour it around, and it is so inspiring in creating this work to imagine where it could go next, who might hear it next. And so that scheming they're referencing is finding which orchestras, which ensembles all over the world might want to bring the two out. And it's an incredible privilege to be part of a premiere, but it's so much more important to see a work have that longer life.
Well, folks, let's give one last round of applause to these extraordinary artists. Congratulations.